We have our 6th championship case today. I'm going to go through Ross Chastain's season so far, talk about why he could potentially win the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series championship. For those who don't know, we do this with all 16 playoff drivers. We go through each and every one of them and tell you why they're going to win the championship. We've already did 5, which is why this is number 6. But yes, that is in a playlist if you have not seen those first 5 yet. I think we've done Truex, Byron, Hamlin, Larson, Kyle Busch. So this is number 6, but if you haven't seen the first 5, make sure to go check those out. So Ross Chastain, how's his season been? Well, he's made a lot of people mad again, but as of the last few weeks, he hasn't. He has 1 win on the season that came at Nashville back in June. Other than that, it's been all right. It has not been as good as 2022. He has 9 top 10s. He has 5 stage wins and currently has 14 playoff points, I believe. That 4 playoff points is actually included in his regular season points. If he finishes top 10 in the regular season, then he gets some bonus points. He's currently 7th in the regular season standings. So that's point number 1. Get more playoff points. That's the goal for everyone. No such thing as too many. Once again, ask Kevin Harvick in 2020. Now, Chastain, as I said, it hasn't been as good of a year as last year, but it's been a solid year. I would say this is really his 2nd year in the Cup Series in competitive equipment. Last year, he made it to the championship 4, won 2 races. This year, he still is winning. He has that win, as I said. But it has not been as good as last year. He was good pretty much throughout the entire year, whereas this year, he's been in a bit of a slump as of recent. I think his last top 10 was at Michigan, yes, but before that, you might have to go back to his Nashville win before his last top 10. It's been a bit of a struggle in the summer for him, but there are some good tracks for him in the playoffs, so let's get to that playoff schedule. The first round is Darlington, Kansas, Bristol. Darlington, he led a ton of laps in the spring. I think he won a stage, maybe even swept them, but he ran extremely well at Darlington in the spring, was up front contending for the win before he wrecked himself out of the lead. Anyways, regardless of that, if he can keep his head on straight, make sure to keep it clean, not make anyone mad, I think he could very well be in contention for the win here as well. Darlington just was so good for him in the spring. If they can get that speed back, we saw this with Byron last year. Byron, hot at the beginning of the year, had a summer slump, but then once the playoffs hit, Byron was back up front. So if Chastain can get back up front and get that speed back, if they can show that same speed that they showed in the spring at Darlington, I think they'll be fine there. As for Kansas and Bristol, once again, it's kind of like with Kyle Busch in a sense where we have a really small sample size for Chastain in terms of he's only been in a competitive car for a year and a half. Prior to that, his Cup Series career, he was at Chip Ganassi Racing, which is kind of a mid-pack team, I would say. They could contend for a win every once in a while. But this is really his 2nd year in a Cup Series team that has been competing for wins on a consistent basis, whereas the Kyle Busch thing was because he switched teams. So it's tough to say. Kansas, I think he ran top 10 in the spring. He's done well at some of these intermediate tracks. He won at Nashville, which I think is technically an intermediate track. Darlington's an intermediate track he's run well at. Vegas is an intermediate track he's been good at. So I think he can run top 10 there. And this first round, I'm breaking down a little bit more than the guys before because Chastain doesn't have the playoff points. He only has 14 as of now. The cutoff line is going to be an extremely close battle. Everyone right now in the playoffs, I think, has a playoff point, at least one. And if we get another new winner that's below the cut line, then that raises it up. I think Bubba has 1 stage win. And then after that, Harvick has a stage win or 2. He's top 5 in points. Brad Keselowski has a few stage wins. He's top 10 in points, so that's 6 or 7 for both of those guys. So we're looking at maybe an 8-point gap. So he's going to have to build that gap. Those first 2 races, I think he'll run well at, though. And then there's Bristol. I think he can do well enough there. I think he can get. I truly believe that him and Trackhouse can get through that first round. Then for that second round, it's a little bit chaotic, but he does have a win at Talladega. He does have a win on a road course. So I think that is something playing to his benefit. As for Texas, I said this every single video, but Texas is, we don't know what's going to happen there. We had that race last year where it was a tire roulette game, and it's hard to tell who's going to be fast and who's not. But once again, Chastain, they've shown speed on the intermediates. If they can continue to show that speed, I think he'll be fine there. As for Talladega, the super speedway, he's run well at Talladega since his move to Trackhouse, and I think that, he can run well there once again. I think he was in contention for the win in the spring. He won this race in the spring of 22. He was up front last year, I think, in the fall race, so he could very well be up front yet again. And then as for the road courses, he's a top 10 road racer, I would say. You're going to have guys competing for the win, guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, even his teammate Daniel Suarez, I think, is a better road racer than him. Michael McDowell, we could list a bunch of names, but I do think that Chastain is a top 10 road racer. Last year in this race, they had a mechanical problem, so we didn't get to really see the full raw pace. But I think the second round, I think he could top 10 his way into the round of 8. If he could just run well at Texas, continue that intermediate speed, Talladega, just survive, get some stage points, that's a potential top 10. And then the Roval, I think they can get a top 10 there. You get top 10s in all three, you should advance to the round of 8 despite the small points gap. Then there's the round of 8, and this is where I could see a must-win happening. The points gap is going to be tight. If the round of 8 consists of the top guys like Truex, Byron, Hamlin, Larson, Kyle Busch, that's 5 already that have more points than them. But then let's say Christopher Bell's up there and he gets himself another win or 2. Let's say Chris Buescher's in there, he gets another win or 2. Ryan Blaney, well, that's 7, so take out Ryan Blaney. But if Chastain's the bottom of the points, yeah, it's not going to be a big gap because of how tight the points battle is this year, but he's still going to be below that cutoff line. Vegas, that is going to be his opportunity, I think. He was in contention for the win in both races last year. I think he ran well there again in the spring this year. That is a track I firmly believe that Ross Chastain can win at. Even if he doesn't, if he gets like a third, wins a stage, gets about 15 stage points, I really think it could be a must-win for Chastain. Not necessarily he has to win Vegas. He can win any of the 3. It doesn't matter. But I think Vegas is his best opportunity. He finished runner-up at Homestead last year, but Kyle Larson dominated that race. And frankly, I think there are guys better at Homestead than Chastain. You look at Larson, you look at Reddick, the way Truex has been running this year. It's nothing against Chastain. It's just that I think there's going to be better guys there. And then Martinsville, the 1-year anniversary of the Hail Melon. Can't do that anymore, unfortunately, for Chastain. So if he's in a must-point situation, he can't pull that move again. But he did finish top 5 there last year. So, but no, on a serious note, I think it's going to either take top 5s in all 3 of these races or a win, and I think Vegas is the best shot at that. So he did get top 5s in all 3 of these races last year, and as I said, it did take a Hail Melon in order for him to make the championship 4 despite top 5ing all these races. Then we go to the championship, Phoenix Raceway. Chastain finished top 3 in both of these races last year. Finished 24th this year after getting taken out on the last lap by Denny Hamlin. I kind of forgot about that, not going to lie. So it's that this year, you can't really tell. He was top 10, I think, when Hamlin took him out. But as for everything else, he's run competitive there. He's been well there. We've seen Chevy run extremely well. Chevy dominated this race in the spring. Larson led over 200 laps. Byron won the race. So if Chevy can bring that speed, if Ross Chastain can bring the speed he brought last year in these races, he's got a very good shot at this championship. But he has to get there first, and I think that's the biggest thing right now. They've been inconsistent as of late. They haven't had as much speed as they had last year, but it's still possible. I think they can make it to that championship 4 again. So how are they going to do it? That first round, I think they're going to be competitive enough to get through. Second round, because it's such a wild card round, I think they could get through. And even if it's not a wild card round, I think they could get through. And in that round of 8, it could come down to a must win just because of the tight point situation. But if you can top 5 all 3 of those races, I think you can get in. I know that's asking a lot, but it's possible. And then as for Phoenix, he's been running good at Phoenix as of late since his trackhouse career. I think it's very possible Ross Chastain could win this thing, but he's not allowed to use the Hail Melon this year. We got another championship case coming tomorrow. I think it's Christopher Bell or Chris Buescher. It's one of the Chris's. So look out for that. I'll be posting that tomorrow along with any other news. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to continue with these championship cases till we get all 16 done.